Hey there, and welcome back to Currently Kent. So pretty excited for today's video. Got this Power Color 6900 XT Red Devil Ultimate. I'm gonna be doing a little bit of work on it today. So I'm gonna pull it out of the box, show you a little bit of how it looks just as it is with its stock cooler on it, and then we're gonna go through the process of putting this water block on it with the back plate, and probably end up doing a handful of benchmarks and share the results with you all, so stick around. Before we go any further, I wanted to give a special shout out and thank you to old man Ian over on Discord. He's the one that sent me this graphics card and the EK water block to install onto it. And he did it just out of the goodness of his heart. He subscribed to the channel recently and was gracious enough to allow me to borrow these things to have another couple videos to make. So really appreciate it, Ian. Thank you so very much. And I wanted to talk about his wife is running a charity. It's called Jones Reach, and I'll put it up on the screen here a little bit. And it's jonesreach.org. And what it is that they do is that through Jones Reach, we hope to raise awareness of perinatal hospice care within the local medical community, so that families facing life-limiting prenatal diagnosis will receive detailed information about an option to carry to term, as well as support throughout their pregnancy. So Jones Reach provides advocacy, peer support, family care packages containing books and references and resources for perinatal palliative care teams at local hospitals. And it also gives out referrals to professional resources for birth planning and bereavement support. So it's a really great cause. I've actually already donated to Jones Reach before and would encourage anybody to do the same. It's a really great cause. And with that being said, let's go ahead and move on forward. The Power Color 6900 XT Red Devil Ultimate is a giant card. It's a 2-slot card, but it actually ends up measuring quite a bit more than just the 2 slots. You'll see here, I took some measurements so we could get some actual numbers and height to see about how much space you'd need to plan for if you end up getting one of these and are able to put it into a case, hopefully. It is quite the looker of a card. I mean, the way that they implemented the RGB in the back plate, through the shroud where the fans are housed, and on the front end as well. They also did a nice little addition that I didn't notice until much later after playing with the card for a little bit, is that they put some LEDs back in where you would plug in your display cables. So your HDMI cable and your DisplayPort cable are lit a little bit back there so you can kind of see what it is that you're doing while you're reaching around behind the case to try to plug in your display cables. And if I'm being completely honest here, before I decided to tear this card down, I did watch a little bit of a Buildazoid video where he already did most of the work for me, figuring out what kind of screwdrivers would be needed and about how difficult the process would be. And I'm here to confirm that yes, indeed, it is very easy. All you need is a Phillips head screwdriver, a little bit of time, and what I did was ran a couple benchmarks just before I pulled the card off of the test bench back here and put it on my table to start working to take it apart, just to loosen things up a little bit. So to start, we're going to work on the backplate side of the card. And you'll see that I have to remove a handful of screws over here. Once those screws are removed, it's pretty easy to just kind of shimmy the cooler off from the PCB, and the backplate does stay attached to the PCB, but the cooler does come apart from there. And there are just a few cables to unplug, mostly for RGB. And after those cables are undone, then there are just a few more screws remaining on the PCB side that connect the backplate to the PCB. And once those are removed, that's it. You're left with the bare PCB and a little bit of cleanup to do. After you finish cleaning off the cards, it's time to get into the EK Quantum Vector 6900 XT Red Devil Ultimate water block. When this thing comes out of the box, it looks really nice. I must admit, as far as looks and presentation go, EK nailed it with this. I don't know what it is. I need instructions. So I went online and found the instructions and printed them off so that way I would have no issues during the assembly process and wondering where things were. So as you can see here, there are actually a couple things that I found strange was that I think these instructions and the packing list that they give you as far as what to expect inside the package, I think there's actually, this is more of like a universal list, and I think it says it here on there that it is a universal packing list. So I was a little bit spooked to find that there was only one nut that I found inside of the included mounting hardware, but the instructions say that there are supposed to be 6, and ended up not needing to use any of them. So it wasn't a big deal in the end, but as you're kind of taking things out of a box, checking to make sure that you've got everything that's supposed to be there, that was a little bit of a moment of, oh no, what am I gonna do if I'm missing parts to this? But it all ended up okay. So again, once everything is nice and cleaned up, we can begin the installation process. This is where I would probably recommend, if you're going to be putting the backplate along with this water block, you should do a little bit of forward thinking, get both sets of instructions in your hands and try to look at where the screws are going to go in, because if you are going to be installing this block without the backplate on it, you'll follow a different set of instructions and you'll put screws in different places at different times than if you were going to be installing the backplate, which you have to purchase separately. But inside the packaging for the backplate, this is really nice. I found this to be pretty cool, was that they offer, or they send screws along for either the nickel backplate or the black backplate. And so you have your choice. Whether you order the black or the nickel, you can use either nickel or black screws. In case you wanted to maybe accent the EK badge on the water block itself, you could do that by using the black backplate with the nickel screws. If you're following along with the instructions, you'll see some placement for thermal pads. EK do send more than enough thermal pads for you to do the block installation as well as the backplate installation. Even if you're a little bit off with some of the cutting of your thermal pads, you will have enough to get the job done, but you do have to put in a little bit of legwork. I took it a little bit further than I normally would, just because this is going to end up going back to my friend and I want to make sure that everything is perfect. So I was measuring and cutting twice, the other way around. Measuring twice and cutting once, just to make sure that I got the correct size of each of these thermal pads and the application was good. Not only did I want to make sure that the application of the thermal pads was good, I wanted to make sure that the thermal paste was also spread nicely. So a little trick that I picked up from Max over at Hardware Numbers is he was saying to use one of the pieces that you peel off of the thermal pads, the protective plastic. He was saying to use one of those to help spread the thermal paste across the die of the GPU, which I gotta say, Max knows what he's talking about with that, because this thing came out perfect. And so after the block goes on and the backplate goes on, now we get to sit and admire our work with a little hardware RGB connector that I rigged up to be able to show it off in this fashion. So let's take a look. this was a really fun video to make. I'm super thankful to Old Man Ian for letting me borrow his Power Color 6900 XT Red Devil Ultimate and install this EK water block on it and the backplate and everything and get to play around with it and benchmark it. So again, Old Man Ian, thank you so very much for lending me your toy, and thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.